Hey guys, my name is Elisa and welcome to my channel, Elisa's Magical Space. Now, in today's video, I want to talk about a bunch of things. And actually, this is the first time that I'm shooting a video face to face and I'm a bit nervous. And why am I doing this? I've had this channel for quite some time now. And to be quite honest, things are not working the way I want them to be in regards to the channel. And I'm trying something new. The videos that I've put until now have always been mostly scripted, and I have known what I wanted to express in those videos and share with you guys. But I find myself wanting to be more authentic, more free in my expression, and do more of a freestyle videos, if that makes sense. And yeah, so I'm trying this out and we'll see where it goes. Let's begin with some update. I have some notes here that I'll refer to. And yeah, so the last thing that I filmed was the Shakti self-exploration workshop that is still ongoing. I filmed the whole series in one day, and this was probably a month, maybe month and a half now. And since that last filming and recording of that workshop, I haven't recorded anything new. And the reason is that my personal life was a bit all over the place and I was just not feeling like hopping on YouTube and talking about a bunch of stuff. And yeah, so that's that. But I think that I'm back now. And because of that turmoil in my personal stuff that I won't be really discussing here, I stepped away. I made the decision to step away from Instagram. I kind of got tired of all the scams going on there, the algorithm that, like, I followed a bunch of creators and other tarot tubes and tarot creators, etc. And because of the stupid algorithm on Instagram, I rarely saw their posts, and vice versa. My content wasn't really seen, so I decided that it was a waste of time and honestly my energy and my nerves. So I made the decision to step away. Now my profile is still on Instagram, but it's not active. I'm not actively posting there. I deleted the app from my phone, etc. And I'm on a social media break, but it's not really a break because I'm not planning on going back there. And with stepping away from Instagram, I decided that I want to put my content that I usually did over there here on YouTube. And yeah, so I'll be making my short card pulls in my content. There's a tab on YouTube that's about making posts and pictures, so I'll be using that feature as for expressing my thoughts, actually, just like I did on Instagram. So yeah, that's new for me. And stepping away from Instagram, it really feels refreshing. I find myself with more time on my hands. I'm not constantly scrolling, looking for the next post, or you know how it is with social media. It's good that we can connect over there, but it's not very healthy for our attention span if things get out of control. So my decision to step away from that, I'm really glad that I take those steps and that I'm here now. So this is like the update, the short version, and I want to make some changes here on my channel, on the content that I post. Recently, there's been a very heated discussion about the consumerism in tarot circles, deck collecting, and the promotion of videos and the whole language surrounding, not surrounding, but used in deck reviews. Mistress Ray did a in her most recent video pointed out some interesting things, and in that video she really shares passionately her personal where she stands personally, her feelings and opinions. And I think that's amazing, actually, that people are starting to communicate more openly and they don't filter themselves. And I think that's very useful because of freedom of speech. And yeah, I mean, people have different opinions and stands, and that's pretty normal. And on a platform as YouTube or any other social media, I think it's necessary for every one of us to share their personal opinion and where they stand about certain topics. And under that recent video of Mixtures Ray, there were some disturbing comments, and there's a heated disagreement about what she said in the video and how she said it. But in regards to that, I can only say that I think people are taking language way too personal or serious, and they don't tend to acknowledge that uh, each one of us has their own biases when it comes to everything in life. And people tend to take everything too personal and really don't acknowledge, this is my personal opinion here, that if someone comes on here, has a channel and shares something, this is strictly their personal opinion, and there's no need to feel attacked by this or anything like this. You can take it or leave it as it is. It's not personal, and it shouldn't be taken so personal. Like, I don't know, I think that people that got triggered by that video are people that first they think they take things way too personal, and second, there's some ignorance I feel around their habits and their own behavior that, yeah, that this video triggered in them. And from my experience, people don't, in general, about everything, if there's something that's a bit out of control in their lives, or it's like, how to put it, people are very ignorant when it comes to their own personal shit. And when somebody brings certain topics that are triggering, people immediately act in defense. So it's a normal human response, but that doesn't mean that, I don't know what I want to say actually about this. Yeah, this freestyle is, I don't know, it's very weird. Anyway, I made a post on my community tab in response to another video, and if you want more of my thoughts about that, you can read that post. It's way more structured than this video, but anyway. So yeah, that consumerism is a real thing, and in that community post that I wrote yesterday, I mentioned that okay, some backstory now. It's story time. So I first, in order for you to get the context of what I want to say and express. So I discovered tarot when I was 14, 13 or 14, and currently I'm 27, so you do the math. And I come from a little country where those things weren't that popular back then, and there weren't as much like decks available or even information actually. I remember that I learned about tarot from, so when I was a kid, I used to spend a lot of time in our public library, and there I found a witchcraft themed book from Sylvan Ravenwolf, I think, yeah. And I still got that book actually. After I found it in the library, I went out and purchased it for myself so that I can have my copy. But yeah, in that book she mentioned tarot, and this piqued my interest, and I was really into Wicca, witchcraft, and that whole thing back then. And so I was really interested. Back then I didn't have such easy access to the internet, so I didn't know how tarot looks or what it is. I just know it was a pack of cards, and that was that. And in the book she mentioned that it was very useful to use the cards to ask about the outcome of a spell or something like this. So I thought to myself, well, yeah, I want to try this. It sounds interesting and helpful. So I went on a hunt in the bookstores of my city. And in one bookstore, I found a bunch of decks, and there were mostly angel cards or that sort. It wasn't my jam, it still isn't my jam actually. And they had only one tarot deck available, and it was the RWS. It was translation in Bulgarian, and it was a pocket version. And I still have that deck actually. So I bought it, and I also bought the Pictorial Key by Edward Waite. And this was my first deck back when I was a teenager. And I remember I used to use that deck constantly. I read with it. The Pictorial Key to Tarot is not the great book for beginners. It's very confusing, and the translation in Bulgarian, I think it wasn't very accurate, like seeing it from my perspective now. And my base knowledge of tarot is actually experiential, as Mary Grace says in her video. It's not so much of a book knowledge that came later in my practice when I started discovering more books, etc., and so on and so forth. But yeah, so this little deck, this pocket version of the RWS, was my only deck for up until I discovered TarotTube, which was a little bit before the COVID thing started. So up to that point, that's about maybe 10 years or something. Not really good at math. But yeah, I had only one deck that I used for my personal readings, and on occasion I read for my friends and family. And I felt amazing, like I didn't have any problem. I wasn't obsessing about tarot decks, etc. I had one deck, it was doing the job, it was great. And then I found TarotTube, and so all those great decks and the glamour just struck me, and I started researching other decks. But at that point I was still living in Bulgaria, and we don't have Amazon shipping there, or if we do, the shipping costs are really expensive. So yeah, I was just looking online and I was admiring those pretty decks online. But at that point, I couldn't buy them because in my country, if there's tarot decks available, they are way overpriced, and it wasn't reasonable for me because it was just like I said, the pandemic was starting. I was out of my job at that point, so I didn't have the cash to spend around left and round on tarot decks. So yeah, I was just enjoying them from a distance. Then a bit more about the personal history. I moved to Austria, Vienna, where I live currently, and here they have Amazon, which was yeah. So going deeper into the tarot tube, watching more content, I started feeling like, because I didn't have all that toys, all that decks to play with, like I started feeling like I wasn't a good reader. And at that point, with my move here, I started my tarot business and offering readings to the public because I didn't have a job. So naturally, I used my skills. And yeah, in combination, just starting my business and watching all those content, all those other readers having huge libraries with decks, I felt like, what am I even doing? Like, I have one deck, I don't have much experience, I'm not good. Why am I trying to offer readings to other people? Who am I? And all that imposter syndrome things came bubbling up, and it's a really shitty feeling. And looking back at it now, reflecting back, it's all totally bullshit. It was totally bullshit. Like Mary Grace and other people are saying right now, words cast spells. And at that point, I was really into the all tarot consumerism spell. Like I was falling hard. And emotionally, it felt really bad. In conjunction of being in a new country, having no friends around me, my family being far away, all those emotions, plus the COVID thing, of course, the COVID thing, uh, all those emotions and things, they just blew out of proportion, and I started buying decks. Now, because of my situation, thankfully, I wasn't able to afford indie decks, so till this point in time, I've had only one indie deck that's not created by me, and this was the Sasarai B2 Tarot, but I moved that pretty quickly. I really soon discovered that it wasn't for me. But yeah, because I didn't have the financial means, and yeah, I didn't go on that road on indie decks and Kickstarter, the whole Kickstarter thing. But still, I was buying like a lot of mass market decks, which are also pricey. And yeah, reflecting back, I can really say, and I've made videos about this whole process previously. There's a whole a playlist of it was a 3-episode experiment from the summer that I did on the topic of tarot overwhelm. And what was I saying? So yeah, it was a really shitty feeling of feeling that I'm not good enough with the cards, that I'm not good enough of a reader because I don't have decks. And yeah, the whole crazy thing started. And as I said, I only had the budget to buy mass market decks, but it was still a lot of expense. Thankfully, I didn't put myself into debt as some other people that are sharing on their channels now. And yeah, I think that I was lucky enough to not go that deeper into the whole craziness, but still, like, typically I'm a very minimalistic person. I don't like having a lot of stuff. And this whole thing with tarot consumerism, it was a really bad coping mechanism for myself, for dealing with, or actually not dealing, but ignoring my real issue and my real feelings of isolation, from being under lockdown constantly, of being away from my family and friends and all that shit. So yeah, it was a my and after some time in this behavior of constantly looking for the new deck and constantly buying stuff, I actually had to admit to myself that this chasing was becoming of a sort of addiction. I was really obsessing of, I have to have that deck for that purpose, or otherwise I cannot do that practice and stuff like this, which is a total bullshit in my opinion. And I say that because back when I had only one deck and I use it for everything, my practice was fine, like nothing was lacking there. So yeah, I admitted that I have a bit of a problem with my consumerism habits, and I began to declutter, and I'm currently once again re-evaluating what I have in my home and what I use and why I have it exactly. And the whole experience was really life changing. Actually, I don't regret any of it, by the way, because in my personal philosophy there's no room for regret, because you learn. If you're wise, you learn from your mistakes and they're useful. And I'm thankful for the whole for the whole situation, because right now I have that experience. I can speak about it. I know that having more decks doesn't make me a better reader, and for me personally, this whole attitude and language is a total bullshit. And right now I understand it, but I had to go through the whole process to get here, to get to that understanding. And because of the whole thing, yes, I will, honestly, I say this, I will never be the person with only one deck. Like, through that process, there are decks, a very few, a handful, that I fell in love with and that I actually use constantly in my practice, so it makes sense to keep them. But the rest, I'm just, they're going to there's no even a purgatory box in my house. It's like either I use it or I don't. If I don't use it, if we have friends coming over or etc and they're interested, I just give them the option to choose from the decks that I don't want anymore and take home with them, or I just donate them, or yeah, they're, once I decide that a deck is gone, it's gone, and that's it. And so yeah, this whole experience was a opportunity to look at myself more closely and examine myself. And videos such as that of Mixtress Ray and that video that I linked in my community tab with the post that I make, they're very good to show us that the whole community, I think it's my opinion, is a bit ignorant of how they speak, what they do. And I'm saying this with, my intention is not to make anyone feel shitty about themselves or whatever. I'm just saying that constant reflection of one's own behavior is a really valuable thing, and we shouldn't act so. We shouldn't take things personally when someone criticizes something, because if you take something that personally, it's most likely a sign that you have a problem and that person's opinion is triggering something in you, and you have to look at that closely. So this is my advice: if you feel triggered by something, or you feel the need to passionately defend your position, maybe that's a sign that you need to look closely at yourself. And yeah, I think that reflecting is a thing that all of us benefits from. mm, what else do I want to talk about? So yeah, some particular language used in recent reviews and videos that I'm seeing, and this is about decks being investments. Like, I understand why people are saying that word, but I personally don't agree with it in the context that it's used necessarily. And there's some points I want to make. When you buy a deck or a book or any object, there are two types of investments involved. First, you give money, and this is a monetary exchange, an investment in that sense. And shopping, buying stuff, all cool, whatever. I'm not here to judge anyone, and yeah. But the second point is, whenever you buy an object, a book, or a deck of cards, because this is a tarot channel, the second investment that you make is of your time and the attention you give to that object. And I see a lot of, like, those things go hand in hand. Like, you buy the object and then you use it, you give it your time and attention. And I see a lot of people just sticking to buying, and they have this whole collection, and that's great if you're a collector. But you cannot tell me that having 600 decks in your home, you have a full-time job that it's not a tarot reader or anything, and that you have time and energy to dedicate to each one of those decks. Like, I'm not convinced. Nobody has that energy, that capacity, or any of it to, yeah, like, as human beings, we have a limited attention and energy, and that's just it, that's the facts. And we have to prioritize things: family, friends, work, our possessions, hobbies, etc. You get my point. So yeah, those are the two types of investments that there are in buying whatever and bringing whatever into your life. So there's a really point for reevaluation here. Are you just buying, and are you giving the proper attention to the objects that you buy? And how are you justifying both? Like, what are your reasons, and are these reasons really objective and valid? Because sometimes the stories that we tell ourselves are not really the truth, and they're just mental excuses to prevent us from really looking deep within. And I'm speaking about all of this because I've experienced it. And this, again, another thing that I really don't like is all those disclaimers that people put in their videos, like, this is simply my opinion, don't take it personally. If it resonates, that's great, take something, and if you learn something, that's great. If it's totally not your cup of tea, you don't have to watch. But in my opinion, people should stop apologizing for having experiences and sharing them. Like, I'm pretty sure that nobody that puts their videos on YouTube are here to hurt other people's feelings. So we shouldn't take them personally. And if we do, once again, I'm saying this, reflect, why are you taking this person's opinion so seriously and personally? What's the cause of that? So yeah, that's about the investment. I'm not gonna comment on deck prices because currently everything is going up. Each person is entitled to price their creations however they want. I'm a deck creator, and all my decks are on make playing cards. And one thing I just want to mention is, when you're a self-published creator, and in my instance I put my artwork on make playing cards, which, if you don't know, is a site where you put your designs and people can order a copy, 50 copies, whatever. But I personally don't handle the distribution, the production, any of it. This goes through make playing cards, and I make a small percentage of the deck, and they take the rest of the money for the production, from the shipping, etc. So I made money only for the design that I've uploaded. And there's the thing that on make playing cards, when you upload a design of a tarot deck, for example, the prices are very different. And what do I mean by that? If you're a consumer or a client, you go there and you have option. If you want to buy just one deck, the price is higher. If you want to buy 100 decks, the price of each of those 100 decks is very smaller. So there's that difference, because this is a printing company. And when you're a self-produced and published artist that doesn't use sites like this, but decides to use maybe an Etsy shop and sell their decks by themselves. This means that they have used a printing company, like for example make playing cards, but they've placed an order for a huge amount of decks, which means that a single deck from that huge order costs them less than if you buy one deck from the printing studio. Do you get where I'm going with that? And it's very so there's a difference in how you price your deck based on that. So, and of course, if you order so let's make an example. You're deciding to sell a deck of cards by yourself. So you go to a printing company and you order, let's say, 1,000 decks. And for that 1,000 decks, for one deck you pay maybe $3 to be printed. And then this $3 deck, you sell it for maybe 100 on Etsy. So that huge profit there, that goes to you. But if you're a creator like me that puts their deck on make playing cards and sells them through them, I actually make like $5 to myself. If my decks cost like $40, for example, I make $5 from that deck, and the other $35 go to the printing company, because they have printing costs, they have to pay for the materials, their shipping. So you get where there's a difference. So that's why I won't be discussing pricings, and everyone have the right, depending on how they choose to sell their creation, price accordingly. So there's that. And what else do I want to discuss? So I made an update. I discussed the recent events in the tarot community. I shared some personal thoughts. So please go to my community tab and check the post that I did. check the video that's linked there, and also hop onto Mixtures Ray channel and watch at her latest video. And yeah, I don't agree with everything that, for example, Mixtures Ray says in her video, but it's not triggering for me because I acknowledge that that's her personal life experience, and she's totally entitled to share whatever she wants, and that's okay. And I'm very, very happy to be able to hear all those different perspectives. Uh, and I think that we can learn from people with opinions that are close to ours or that are on the far opposites. There's always an opportunity to learn new things. And it's very important to stay open to learning and reflecting at your own bullshit because we all have our baggage, so let's be honest about that. Okay, so I want to just say that going forward, I'm not making any promises or goals. I just think that I'll be making more videos like this face to face and getting more personal with you. And I'll be using YouTube as my social media from now on. And honestly, I don't care about the numbers. I never look at statistics. And I'll be using it just for like a video diary and sharing my thoughts and opinions. And if people want to connect with me, if they resonate, that's great, but that's not the main focus here. I'm just sharing things that come to mind, and I'll be using this as a way to process my own bullshit. So yeah, that's that. And I think I'll be making way more content about my personal stuff, my personal practice, my personal beliefs. And in the past, since the beginning of that channel, it didn't began very well from a standpoint of a how to say it, with all that turmoil I was going through with consumerism, all the things that I discussed, all that emotions, and especially the feeling like I was an imposter because my opinions and views didn't match with the majority of that community. So I was filtering everything that I was putting on here so that I don't hurt anyone's feelings or step on their toes. But currently, to be quite honest, I don't freaking care about that anymore. Like, I've really reached that point in which I don't take things personally, and I think people shouldn't either. So I won't filter myself anymore, and I'll just put whatever comes to me whenever it comes to me. It's going to be way much more in a freestyle, free format, just like chatting, talking, and that's that. So yeah, I'll leave my information in the description below so you can check my website, etc. if you're interested, of course. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for being with me and for spending this time with me. It's a very long video actually. I'm not used to that, and it wasn't as strange as I thought it would be, like filming face to face. Thank you so much, and I appreciate your comments as usual, and I'll see you next time. Bye!